Just 24 hours from now, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is scheduled to arrive at the White House for a high-level meeting with President Obama. At the top of the agenda, of course, a four-letter word, Iran. It is the one thing that critics say remains a source of tension, deep tension, between the two leaders. But during an interview on CNN today, National Security Advisor Susan Rice insisting that protecting Israel from a nuclear Iran remains a top U.S. priority. Take a listen.
Obviously, we are in constant contact and communication with our Israeli allies and other key allies in this process, and we have been largely united in agreeing on the process going forward and on what is necessary to give us a shared degree of confidence.
Lisa Daftari is a Fox News contributor and a Middle East journalist. Good to see you. You think the latest overtures and conversation between the two presidents, Obama and Rouhani, deeply worries Israel, in particular Benjamin Netanyahu? They may believe that this will only encourage Tehran to continue, if not accelerate, their nuclear weapons program.
Right, and that's what Bibi Netanyahu is going to encourage the president to see, that these smiles, that this charm offensive is not anything new that we're seeing out of the regime. We're not going to see any behavioral changes. We're not going to see any ideological changes. And he's going to have to, again, point out, he's going to give the president another history lesson in the way that he has in years past. He's going to say, look at their involvement in Syria. Look at, they're still the largest global supporters of terrorism. They are, human rights abuses. They're holding two American citizens.
Does the Israeli leadership believe that President Obama is being played here by the mullahs and the new president of Iran?
Absolutely, and he's not the only one. They're looking at North Korea as an example, the way the U.S. got played. They're looking at so many other chances that the Iranian regime had in order to prove themselves. Look, the sanctions weren't placed on the Iranian regime for nothing, and Bibi Netanyahu is probably going to point to that and say to the president, look at the reasons why sanctions were placed. And unless we see concrete examples of how they're going to change, smiles are really not going to make a difference here.
After Syria, do you think the leadership in Tehran doesn't take President Obama seriously? They do not fear that America will take action? Right,
and I think that's why the president's going to hesitate to draw red lines again with Bibi Netanyahu. And that's what it's really going to come down to, another four-letter word, and that's time. They're not going to, that's where the gap is really going to be. The president's going to say, let's give the Iranian regime time to see if they can diplomatically, we can come to a resolution about this. And Israel's going to say, time means spinning of centrifuges, and time means they will get closer to having the bomb.
And they could be 6 months away from breakout with a nuclear capacity, which means, in other words, within weeks they could develop a nuclear weapon. We all remember the very dramatic presentation, I think we have videotape, of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, there it is, last year at the United Nations. And, he talked about, and he's going to draw on, in a moment, the red line, and there it is, on a nuclear bomb developed by Iran. That timetable has to have been shortened by now. Is he going to lay it out for the president tomorrow when he meets with President Obama? Timelines, deadlines. Mr. President, here's how much time we have to have.
Right, and I think privately he will have a very strong message for the president, but publicly when he comes to the UN, he's going to have to scale back a bit from his usual harsh approach as to not appear in stark contrast with the smiling Rouhani. But his message will be nonetheless very strong. And look, the bottom line is that for Israel, this is an existential threat. If the Iranian regime is still making threats about blowing Israel off the map and still being, death to America chants were that's what he was greeted with when he went back to Iran.
With Iran and the United States now talking, now negotiating, does that mean that Israel invariably will have to take action alone?
If they have to, they will, and that's what the Prime Minister will probably lay out for us, that if this is an existential threat, then we will have to do whatever it is to protect ourselves.
Lisa Daftari, should be an interesting couple of days.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow is the meeting, Benjamin Netanyahu and President Obama. Then on Tuesday, the speech.
At the White House, and Tuesday's in New York.
Yeah, at the United Nations.
Right.
Anticipated to be a very dramatic speech. Lisa Daftari, as always, good to see you. Thanks.